Welcome, restoration professionals, to Restoration Minutes, your source for industry information and education. Be sure to like and rate us if you enjoy the content we provide.
All right, welcome into another episode of Restoration Minutes. I've got the one and only Chris Carter from Action Restoration here, and we're going to talk shop. Me and Chris have become pretty good friends over the last few years. And we're going to talk a little bit of shop about his experiences in action. He's been doing this, I think, 25 years now. Isn't that right, Chris?
Yeah,
25
25 years.
years.
Yeah.
And now him and Leanne have actually also started Global Catastrophe Training, which to me, in my opinion, is the best hands-on training in the industry. So, without ado, Chris, tell us a little bit about yourself for those who don't know you.
Well, like Mike said, I've been in the business about 25 years. Started out my career with Action, still there. Started out as a laborer and quickly moved to supervisor role. But we started real small. We had about 2 or 3 trucks, a couple of carpet cleaning trucks, and we did the typical mold remediation. Mold was gold back in the day. It's great, and we decided about 2002 to chase our first storm and loaded everything up that we owned into 24-foot box truck, and everything we owned fit inside it, and we could walk down the meadow. And we traveled and ended up cutting trees. Didn't drive building one. Never cut a tree before in my life. Ended up cutting trees, and then we made enough money to pay for the chainsaws. That was about it. But we fell in love with it, and just have grown and as much as we can in that side of the world. So.
Yeah, now
And
Action
then
is probably one of the largest privately held restoration companies out there, really, as far as equipment and everything, right?
yeah, we are. We've done pretty well. Susan Rising owns Action. She's 79 this year and still works, 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. Makes the rest of us look pretty bad, but
I hope I'm in as good a shape as Susan is when I turn 60, much less 79.
amen to that. I'm feeling rough. I went on vacation the first time with my daughter this weekend, and just her and I feel like I'm 150 years old.
That's because
Mhm.
y'all went to Disney, didn't you?
We went to Disney. Yeah, we spent.
I saw some pictures. That'll wear you out, but at least you went towards the time of the year where things are at least cooling off a little bit, man. People, when I lived in Orlando up until 6 months ago, people were like, aren't you there in the summertime? Heck no, we're not going to Disney in the summertime. It is too hot, too much walking. It is brutal. People are passing out around everywhere. That's for the tourists. I'm going to go in the wintertime.
Exactly. This is the best time to do it. It was perfect. It was really nice.
Yep, November through the first part of March is the best time to go to Disney and anything to do in from Central Florida south, really.
Yeah, I love it.
So tell us a little bit about global catastrophe training and what the concept was behind that and where you guys are
Well,
going with that.
yeah, well, it's about a year ago. Me and Leanne got together and we started talking about some of the needs. We've all, or at least for my company and myself, always tried to get as much training in as possible. Every time that I send someone out to be trained, they come back and I'll ask them what they learned, to give me feedback. Pretty much they didn't remember anything that they learned. They couldn't apply anything. So it wasn't like I could put them to work. And so we put together our first class. Really was a documentation class because I feel like our industry that's one of the weak points in our industry. Everybody's on a different page. So we kind of put that together, and we had really good feedback on that. And it was all hands on. It was actually doing field documentation, collecting equipment. And so we decided to move forward into that and try to be different style of training than most people. Our industry is full of technicians that are highly intelligent, but just not so much on sitting there in front of someone speaking to them all day or in front of a computer or things like that. They learn with their hands. We decided to take the role on and learn how I learn, and that is to do it with your, actually do it, create muscle memory. But doing it repetitively and not just watching someone do it. So we kicked off our large loss process and procedures class, which is our main class, and luckily we found a facility that we can actually use instead of doing a lot of hypothetical sitting in a warehouse pretending like this is that and whatever. And got some really good people like Clean Claims jumped in, DocuSketch and Helix Co. Everybody that said their product was good, they came in and improved it, and really gives the full feel of the hands-on. And so we're going from there. We've started air duct cleaning class that's pretty much 10 hours of 8 to 10 hours of straight hands-on doing it. That way, when you're
I'm a perfect
technicians.
example of why that don't work because I've been NADCA certified for golly, probably 8 years now. But you don't want me touching your ducks because I've never done
Yeah.
it. Well, I had to let my guys do it that actually, did the hands-on part, and so I carried the certification. So that, that really goes to speak a perfect example of certification doesn't mean squat usually without any hands-on experience. So that's been great that you guys are doing that.
Yeah, hands-on is not, it's not really something new, I think, to the industry, but I think the amount of hands-on that we try to push, and the repetitiveness, like on the catastrophe process procedures part, they're being repetition. 3 days of working 12 hours a day. It's not, you were there, and it's not just sitting around listening. It's actually getting up and sweating and not, not going to the bar at night. It's actually working and being tired the next day and getting the real feel of it. And I think that, like I said, creates muscle memory, and it's good for technicians. And I think generally when people leave that type of training, they retain it, even if they don't know they do. When they go to start doing it, they pick it up.
Yeah, and you've been someone that's been an anomaly in this industry, in some ways, because you go to everybody's training classes that you can get into. I mean, you probably go to more training classes and attend classes more than anybody I've ever met in my life. And I
Well,
think that's amazing.
well, luckily, Susan allows me to do that. But I really believe that we are in the best industry that there is, and learning as much as we can about the trade that we do is very important, and learning from others. I mean, there's no way that I would ever sit here and think that the way that I do things is the absolute perfect and only way to do things. So I think everyone should learn and try to learn and learn, go to new trainings, go everywhere, and
That's kind of the
pass it
motto I
on.
live by is we got to, A is we're always got to be learning. I don't care. I've been not doing this as long as you. I've been 19 years this year. And there's no way I could claim that I know it all about anything. Am I great at some things? Yeah. Can I always learn more? Yeah, absolutely. And, I think as an industry, one of the things that we always run into is, I like to call them the old dogs and things like that. And I don't ever want to become one of those guys that's not opening to learning a new way. So my motto has been evolve or die. If you don't evolve with new technologies and new processes and new procedures and things like that, then you're going to get left behind. And this industry right now, I feel like is granted the physicality of what we do has not changed, but the documentation and the record keeping and the billing and all that is definitely changing, and the technologies as far as our industry, a DHU is improved in technology, but I'm not mechanical. I don't know. I'm not a refrigerant guy. I don't understand that. Just tell me how many pints per day that it does, but even the equipment is evolving. I had Aaron on here who's his interview will probably drop next week as well. And, from Phoenix. And he was telling me about all these new gadgets and the new technologies. And it's like way above my head, but it's like even the mechanical side of this industry is evolving and getting more efficient. People that don't think that the record keeping and the billing and the documentation is not going to evolve with that, I think are disillusioned.
Yeah, definitely. I would tell you when we first started in large loss, well, in any loss, but in large loss for sure, the documentation was very minimal, hardly any pushback back then. Now you almost you almost have to have a video camera with you the entire time just to try to document everything, because everything's changing. Before any of the good billing softwares came out, we were Excel spreadsheets and pens and papers, and before any of like clean claims or anything like that, before that came out, it's chicken scratch on a piece of paper. Hopefully that it makes sense when you get done. Encircle, the ability to do what it does has just changed the world. To me, software is really the future of our industry in order to stay up to date with things. We know how to dry. If you're in this industry, you know how to dry, you know how to run a project, but you have got to advance with the technology, or you'll just be behind.
I mean, even a year ago, because Helix Co. has really, kind of jumped into the scene in the past 12 months, honestly. I actually worked with them while I was still on your side of the fence and trying to develop something to fix all of our problems with the leading time and material program out there without giving them a plug. Even that program to where we're at is like light years in difference.
I
And
agree.
it's like the amount of paperwork has been cut at a minimum in half. Some contractors are now including in their contracts a digital documentation statement. And I've got one contractor I know that just did an entire job. Wasn't a huge project. It was about 310,000, 250 to 310,000. He was just telling me earlier this week. But they did not do any physical documentation except for their safety sign-in sheets, because that was the only thing that we hadn't got built into our digital signature thing right now, because it's kind of hard to document, and we're trying to figure a way around that, to document that someone actually stood in a class, in a safety talk, without them just signing off on it with their signature. So we're working on that now with some different ideas. So if you have anything, please share it. But that was the only thing they did. And the adjuster come to them and said, "Hey, I want your field logs." And they're like, "Well, we can send you if you're going to get pushy, where we actually filled this stuff out in the field because of the metadata that Helix Code captures." And the guy finally backed off and is going to accept their bill as it is. He said, "Because we can prove to you that we logged our equipment every day that we were in the field. We didn't just send an invoice, plus we also have our photo documentation, so that we did every day. It's time and date stamped." So, it's moving that direction. Whereas the old program, I would sometimes on some projects have a team of 10 people. I remember one project where we had 2,800 pieces of portable equipment, and I had a team of 30 people doing paperwork every day on a project. That's expensive. I mean, even if you're classifying some of those people as general labor and not even clerical, I mean, at 35 to 55 an hour, depending on whose price list you're looking at, you know, that's a lot of money on a project just to do paperwork that now things are a lot more automated, and it's going to get better over the next 6 months to a year and obviously continue. And
Yeah, yeah.
it's crazy.
I agree. Or anybody that attended our original documentation class knows our packet's about 37 pages long of daily paperwork that my guys have to fill out, and that's because all the audits we've been through, where someone says, "I'm not going to pay you because you don't have this and you don't have that." And I was very anti, electronic paperwork and electronic this and that, until y'all reached out to me about Helix Co. And then what I like about not just the system, but about the Helix Co. company itself is when y'all come to sell to me, I said, "Hey, you want to show me? Bring it to this hospital that we're doing training on. Let's put it in the hands of people that have never done anything. Let's see if it works." And I'm here to tell you, it blew my mind away. It works. It works great, and it does eliminate a ton of paperwork. And what I love about it is that now I'm not, the old way of doing is I do sign-in sheets and then I send it to scan it in at night after working 16 hours to the office. Within about 2 days, they get back to me and tell me I missed a timeout or something like that. So now I got to go back 3 days later, try to stay up, do my paperwork, and then scan in. So taken more hours to do that, and I've done probably forgotten, or that person's not there anymore. So it's a problem. Where with Helix Go, it's right away, and there's not a lot that you can mess up on. There's a lot of field documentation that someone writes a 7 and it looks like a 9, and then when people in the office don't know any better, so they inset it as a 9. So now your audit, and you go through audit, it doesn't match, and then you get kicked back. And with Helix Go, you don't really have that problem, and it's instant. And the best thing about the program to me, out of everything, is that there's no system out there that I've ever worked with that gave me my daily burn rate by the end of the night. As soon as I put it in, when I ask my PMs now, or an adjuster comes up and asks me, hey, where are we at? I always have to go back and say, well, I can lie and give a rough estimate, or I have to say, let me call the office and I'll get back with you. Now I don't have to do that. I just simply open my app and say, hey, as of yesterday, this is where we're at. We're on a burn rate to do this. It also gives my PMs the ability, if we set our ROM, say at $100,000, and it's going to take us a week to do the job, but we're burning through $30,000 a day, we know that we're going to go way past that ROM. Or the opposite of that is we ROM'd it at 100,000 and we're on track to do 5,000 a day because we're trying to run so lean and work our people to death and not use the best part. Sometimes that's what you have to do. But
no, keep going. No, it was just your signal probably got weak for a second. It's still showing that it's recording. No, I got the warning, but it looks like it's still going. It may have froze your video or something, but it looks like it's still going. So tell us a little bit. You actually, huh? Can you hear me?
yeah, I can. For some reason, it stopped working for a second.
All right. So you got two classes you're doing this December with Global Catastrophe Claim. So tell us a little bit about why you broke those two up. And I hate that I'm going to miss Slade. I really like him a lot on the second class.
Well, we've had a lot of need or a lot of requests for a part 1. We've always planned on doing a part 1 and a part 2. Part 1 to give the basics of everything, and then a part 2 more advanced, get into the weeds of real true project management and setting up jobs and running it completely. And we had to kind of squeeze it into December because the facility that we use is about to be torn down. So we have another facility to use, but I wanted to utilize that facility for part 2 as well, and they're gonna demo that down in February. So in order to get in everything the way I needed to, we have to do it in December. So
yeah, I saw that you got Slade Cumming, who's a great hygienist, probably one of the smartest guys I know on that side of the field. I know too. I'd say him and Jacob from Insulam. Both of those guys are great guys. Both of them know the standards and the standard of care. Probably better than most people that have probably written those standards. I mean, they're that smart of hygienists. They're real good. So I really like that he's going to be there. Who else are you going to have at that part 2?
we're gonna have Parker Olson's going to be there.
That's right. That's right.
He'll be there. He's gonna help. And the reason why I brought Parker on is because with part 2, we're actually going to split the building up as we do in part 1. But they're gonna run the project completely from the original phone call all the way through completion. And I have a public adjuster that'll be there as well to audit. So they'll go through getting the phone call, talking to the client, getting the contract signed, doing the ROM, actually doing the ROM themselves, and actually setting up the equipment. I'll have some labor there for them to learn how to run crews. So Parker's going to be there to assist with that, more of the a little more detailed. I try not to go too deep into setting up equipment and things, because there are some people out there that do that, and they do very well. I'm not here to teach anything anyone else does. But we have to generically show it in part 1. But with part 2, we're going to go more into the weeds with it. And he's going to talk about, electrical distribution calculations, how to do that, how to kind of help with that. And they'll do the whole claim. It's a 4-day event. So we'll do a refresher on day one, and then Slade will talk, and then they'll have to reach out to Slade to get the environmental survey done. They'll have to do all the steps of a real project. So it'll be a lot more hands-on than before. The other way, it's part one's really hands-on too, but part two will definitely be more, and they'll be actually setting equipment and having to justify their bill. So they'll be using Helix Co.
Oh,
They'll do Helix Co to run their ROM. They got to get their ROM approved by the client, and then they'll have to get their invoice approved by the public adjuster that'll be there, and
well, let's talk
we'll
after
have to
this
use Helix Co for
podcast.
that.
If they're going to be using Helix Code, what I may try to do is have two different people come down or something like that and break it up and
Okay.
have someone there for that.
Okay.
We do have a company that's somewhere in southeast Texas that's wanting us to come in for a day in between the classes or something like that and do some hands-on training with them. So it may work it where I just have them come right back to your place or something. I'll see what I can. We'll work on those dates. Um, and then in February, you guys are teaming up with us to do a huge one here at the Football Hall of Fame, the Pro Football Hall of
You're
Fame. That's
breaking
going
it.
to be pretty cool.
Hold on,
We're
Mike.
teaching, basically project management skills, hands-on deep dive into Helix Co., how to deal with consultants and back up your bill, and a little bit of everything inside that class. And I'm excited about it. Excited about the location it's at. That's going to
Yeah.
be pretty cool. We'll be able to do tours of the Football Hall of Fame, and I've got the blueprints and things like that, so we can kind of do like maybe a simulated ROM, simulated loss to kind of help build out the ROM. I think that's a big thing that I'd like to try to get into for that one. But
I think that's a great idea.
yeah. So what is kind of circle back around to action? You guys have what locations obviously in Port Arthur, Texas. You have a location in Florida, Central Florida, and you guys still have the location in Tennessee.
We have a office in Bernie, right outside of San Antonio. We have the Port Arthur, Texas office. We have a Tallahassee office, and we have a Cocoa Beach office, and then we have a satellite office in Louisiana. So,
Okay.
but the other four are all actual
And
operational offices.
one of the things I've been asking guys that do what I did and what you do, is like, since there was no hurricane this year, are you guys looking forward to possible polar vortexes, and how are you guys trying to evolve and make up some of that money as a company?
Well, absolutely. I mean, if you know, our goal is, and what we love to do is large loss, and with no hurricanes, ice storms, things like that would be what we go after. But we have been through this in the industry. Any company that's been around as long as Action has had this
Well,
bad spot, Lowell. And we diversified. We have our other industries that we go into, and luckily, for us, their peak time is storm season. So instead of having to bring in some temp labor to do it, we're able to do that with our own personnel. It's not nearly as profitable as storm work. It's it's good. So you just got to shift. You got to shift what you're doing. If you think that you're going to keep your business at large loss and catastrophe, I mean, I I don't know. I mean, we've never been able to just have that as our business model. It's definitely can hurt you for sure.
it
So
definitely can, because Matt, where I worked at Royal Plus, he his first time he traveled was in Katrina, 2005. I think that's what that was, and he took all his profits and bought all kinds of tractor trailers and big equipment, and what another hurricane for the next 6 years. He learned quick that you got to make sure you diversify, and that you're building more clients that utilize you from day to day. And some a lot of times you can still stay in the commercial world and do that. It's not that you definitely have to go towards residential. Some guys go for residential and a good mix. Some guys do a lot of like what you guys have done, which is you have commercial clients that you build long-term relationships with that'll call you on their regular losses. I mean, everything doesn't happen. And a lot of people, that are trying to get into our world, they think only hurricanes, they think only, these types of events. But in reality, some of the biggest losses I've done have just been from pipe burst and things like that, and water leaks and, you know, sometimes even tornadoes. I mean, tear the roof off a building, puts a lot of water in there, so there's always different, avenues to go after. And that's the reason it's important to, not always hit a home run on every single one-off job that you do, but to, build faith, build a relationship, build that, rapport with that client and that trust with that client. So that's the reason sometimes it's important to give a little bit here, and that way you maintain the relationship. You know, I see contractors out there, and I know a few, and I know you do, that have gone out there and they'll take every client to court to get every penny that they have in their bill rather than working with them. And their phone is never ringing from that client ever again. They've burned that bridge, now.
Yeah,
Obviously,
once you make that call, you're done. Yeah,
yeah. And now, granted, there are things to fight for, and I'm a whole 100%, to get paid what you're worth, and for the project that you did, But to nitpick over 5% sometimes, to go to court over is, it's tough for me to do that. That and cash flow is always king. If you're going to concede on a bill, and you feel like your bill is a good bill, but you're going to concede because you need the cash flow, do not agree that you drop the rate on your labor or on your equipment. You concede on an overall settlement dollar amount for either you that are
exactly.
listening.
Yeah.
In
Hey,
fact,
because
most
once you
of
go down, you can never come back up.
Yep, because then the next time you're on a job loss, they're going to say, "Oh, well, last time you agreed to rent your DHUs at 115 a day versus 140 a day, so I want that same rate." So it's better to get your attorney to draft a settlement out of duress letter, and talk to your attorneys that are, any of you that are listening, they'll know what that is. Once you have it once, you can just use the same one going forward. But basically, it's that you're settling under duress and that you're agreeing to a final payout of X dollars, and that way you're not conceding on labor or equipment or any of those types of things, and set a bad
Yeah,
precedent.
that's a good point because if we step back and we look at all the other industries that we are more or less sisters of, let's say the asbestos industry. The asbestos industry, at least in our area, on the industrial side in southeast Texas and South Louisiana, um, they were really good. I mean, they were one of the most profitable trades you could do, and then things slowed up. Instead of holding their price, they wanted to keep their employees, so they would go in and do public bid. I remember when I first started, the first bid I did was for floor tile, and it was $4 a square foot. 6 months later, it was $1 a square foot. And,
Yep.
it's just so people can keep their people, because once they're trained, it's hard to get rid of them. But once you do it that way, it's hard to ever come back up. It's just
Yep.
really hard.
It's tough because I remember the same thing. I used to do military bases, and I remember my first shock when those price changes happened at Kali. It was like, for me, it was like 2013, something around there. We were bidding between 325 and 375, to come in and do floor tile. And all of a sudden, I got a call from one of the program directors with the Air Force Base in Arkansas, actually. And he's like, "Man, you got beat out, by a significant amount." And I was like, "What?" "Well, we can't tell you what until we release the award. I'm not allowed to tell you that." But then come to find out, yeah, it was like $1.65. And I was like, "Holy crap, this guy's coming in at half my price."
Yeah, yeah.
Then like you said, it just got more and more competitive with ride-on machines, and probably barely wouldn't pass any personnel monitoring, in my opinion, if they had to do that on those projects.
Well,
But
yeah. I mean,
sure.
they cut as many corners as they can, and they really would just pay their, make enough money to pay the payroll, and that's about it. And I get it. I mean, everybody wants to do that, but it messes up your industry. And if we do that, if we get held up and we all have to lower a price. I'm saying I have a lot of people that tell me they never do and they get paid in 2 weeks, but that just means to me they haven't done enough work.
Yeah.
Um, but
Well, there's a
you
residential
just can't lower
company
your
out there.
price.
There's a residential TPA that made some moves in like 2010 to 2014. I'm not going to say their name because I think they just changed names and they still exist. But they were trying to get guys to, rent their air movers for $10, $12 a day and their DHUs for like $55 a day. And the way they were trying to market themselves is like, well, your equipment's not making you any money sitting on the shelves. But then what happened is Xactimate prices dropped because they're like, hey, these guys over here are getting it for this. And it took a while and a lot of pushback to get those prices back to where they needed to be. And they still really have not moved much in the last 8 years. I mean, a DU rental today on Xactimate is probably like 120 for an extra large DU. I think last time I looked at it, between 118 and 125, depending on the zip code. And that price really hasn't moved much in the last 10 years.
Yeah, and it's the same
Although
concept.
inflation's gone through the roof during that time.
Right. Yeah, it's the same concept as the whole 3-day dry deal. That since they did that, it's just been a fight. It depends on which insurance company you did. Luckily, we try to stay away from the residential world, but I mean, everyone gets into it when they need to, and it's just a brick wall that's doesn't even need to be there. Doesn't even make any sense. But
Yeah, because there's nothing in the
that's what
standards
happened.
that says that you can dry in 3 days. There's nothing out there. It's a fallacy that was created and started by one company. We won't say who
The
they
sales
are.
tactic. That's it.
Yeah, we all know who they are.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
and it set a bad precedence, out there, and it's horrible because they're the same company that would start going out and they would set the equipment and never even come and do monitoring, which is in the standard, and it's like so, but then what happened with the insurance industry is they got this idea of 3-day drying, but then they also want it monitored and everything else, and it's like the profit margins have gone away. But what's really helping, though, I feel like, even on the residential side, is that the more requirements that the insurance company and the TPAs put on these contractors, there's a lag of about 6 months to a year for technology to catch up and make it an even playing field profit margin wise. So it's like, oh, well, now we got to have this Mika thing done. Well, I don't get to charge the time for my guy to do the Mika or Moisture Mapper or whatever they call it nowadays, and in the TPA world. I don't get to charge for that. And so my guys would go out in the field and they would do a job and handwrite their stuff and then come back and have to go online and type it in. Well, then they, finally came around to where they created an app to where the guys could do it in the field, but that didn't happen instantaneous. And the time and material world is the same way. We've been stuck in this massive amounts. I know I've had jobs that have had 8 3-ring binders that are that thick, that are 3 and 4 inches thick for a single job. Now with technology, I can do that same job and maybe have 1 3-ring binder, stuff that I felt like I still need to document on paper. And, it's the technology in our industry, people need to get ready for it. It's really about to become a requirement that you're using these tools that are out there right now that are out there, trying to market to you. You need to be paying attention to those tools because a lot of those tools are going to be required by TPAs and by insurance adjusters and consultants are going to start expecting that type of documentation and that level of validation on when you turn in that invoice. It's
Yeah, I agree.
coming, so everybody better get ready for it.
I agree. And with programs, such as Helix Co. and give Clean Claims credit too. They are y'all both are very y'all have your ear to the industry. Y'all take feedback in. Y'all give us what we need, and that's in the past. We had companies out there that do what y'all do and do what Clean Claims does, and we'd ask for something. Oh yeah, it's coming out. It's coming out. And that's the worst thing you could tell a contractor if you're a software person. It's always going to come out next month. I mean, yeah, maybe it is, but we've heard that so long for so many years.
Yeah,
It just puts a bad taste in our mouth.
yeah, it's
And
shocking. We've got a client that's in the oil and spill cleanup industry. He's not in the restoration or anything like that. They do projects when there's oil spills, even on the highway, at foundries, things like that, all around the country. And they came to us last Monday we had a big meeting with them because we're trying to kind of. I've known this guy for a while, and he's like, I really like the validation that comes with it, but I'm not sure if it's a fit. So they gave us a whole page of stuff that they wanted to see our software do. We were able to accomplish all of those and roll it out by Thursday night, except for one. That's a little bit different.
That's
That's
amazing.
specific for the industry, and that's the power of having us, Clean Claims, and a couple of the other ones out there. We have our developers right here in the same office as I'm in. So I'm able to walk back, make sure it makes sense for other contractors. We're not going, if we just have one contractor ask for something that's off the wall, then that's a different conversation. But if it's
There
something
you go.
that makes sense for the entire industry, it's like, okay, let's make that happen, and we'll get to work on it.
Yeah, and the fact that you aren't, egotistical, where I didn't think of it, so it's not going to happen. If I didn't think of it, we're not going to do it. It's,
Exactly.
or if the big boys didn't say it, we're not going to do it. It's been something that's made me gear and be more open to technology because yeah, nothing's perfect, but it's a lot better than it ever was, and it's a lot better than um, me writing it down on a piece of paper and making the mistakes that I make or have made, and getting burned and not getting paid for something, um,
Or if your
making
your
mistakes and not
handwriting's as
getting
bad
billed out
as
on time.
or if your handwriting's as bad as mine, I go back to read my notes sometimes, and I'm like, "What the heck did I write?"
Yes,
Especially when
yeah,
you're on hour 16 of a 24-hour day, and you're cross-eyed already, and you're trying to write down notes. You got 12 guys standing outside your RV asking you for direction on what to do next, and you're scrambling and trying to document stuff. Now you can do voice to text and document it right away, and you're not having to read my chicken scratch. I turn in my notes sometimes, and consultants will be like, I don't even know what the heck you were thinking, much less be able to read anything on this piece of
yeah,
paper.
yeah, exactly. It's funny because during our class we try to get we break up into teams, and we have them do, say, on the clean claim side on the moisture map, and we have them also do it the handwritten way, the old way.
Yep.
And a lot of them will come back and say, "Oh, it was so much easier to do the handwritten deal," until we ask them to put it into a system. Now they have to take the time to go do that, and they can't even read it. They don't even know how. It's really hard to look at a piece of paper and determine, you know, where you need to be with drying and everything, or how much equipment you actually have. You got to tally it. But in a good system like y'all's or Clean Claims, you can instantly see it. Once you put it in, that data's already in. No one else has to touch it. It's in there, and you can, as a PM or a site supervisor, you can actually, lead technician, you can actually look at it and say, hey, we're not doing well here. We need to adjust here and there. Because when you're on a house, a lot of people say we look at our stuff every day. When you're doing a house, you can, but when you're doing a school district, that's a half a million square feet with 27 different buildings in them, and every building gets built differently and has different, you know, set of paperwork. There's just no real way for you to be able to review all that and make decisions on drying equipment when you have to look at people's chicken scratch.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
so.
Exactly.
Same thing with the billing. It's really hard when we go through and we got a school, like I said, it's got 20 buildings. They're all built separately, and we're looking through timesheets. And you got, you know, he
I don't know
worked till
where
noon
anybody
here, but this
was.
one he went in at 9. I mean, it's a nightmare. It is
It is a
horrible.
nightmare. Yep. Yeah, and that's the reason, I started talking to Ray and them here at Helix Co., about 2 years ago when he decided to dive full into this as part of the business. And, I was like, okay, if you can do this and that, and he would do some of it and come back to me and show it to me. And I'd be like, okay, well, it needs to have this, it needs to have that. And we're by no means finished. And I've shared with you some of the plans that we have over the next 6 to 12 months. You know, I think people are going to be shocked at the level of ease that this software is going to make their large loss life. And by
I
summertime
agree.
next year, it's going to be amazing. The more we get these other details built out, and the integrations. We've integrated or in the process of integrating still with Clean Claims. I hope to have something in place before your class to where the documents will pull in, and then we'll do a deeper dive into the integration first quarter of next year. But we're also integrating with with Encircle next. We're also integrating with Verisk. We just signed an agreement with them. Hadn't even posted and publicized it yet. That way, if anybody needs to send out claims data or anything else like that, then they'll pull into their data wise. Not for Xactimate or anything like that, but for claims assignments and things. So there's a lot of cool things that are going on in the industry where most software companies, even the big guys, have decided that we hear the contractors finally that they're tired of opening up 5 different apps on their phones just to get through a single
Yeah,
job. And so
it
that's
is.
hopefully going to get everyone to where they're integrating, no matter what platform you choose, whether you choose us or anyone else that does the same thing, that hopefully whatever program you do choose integrates with something else, makes your life easier.
Yeah. Well, that's really key for you to remember. Most of the industry is full of small independent owners. They're not all these franchises. There's lots of franchises out there, and they can have all these different people are responsible for that. But these majority of us are just small companies that are trying to move into growing better. And when we have to go to 6 different programs and they don't communicate, we're putting the same information in each one. It's very it just makes us go back to pen and paper and just say this is not worth it. I'm not spending the money for that, and then we just do a worse job. We can't become better because we just don't have the bandwidth to do all that. We just don't have the personnel. We can't afford it, and really our brains aren't going to let us do all that. So I'm glad that you are integrating. I think it's great. I think people. Y'all staff. John Handy is like a lifesaver to me. If I got a problem, doesn't matter in the middle of the night on the weekend, he's always there, and that makes a huge difference for me. That and my guy Raul, Raul handles that, and if he's got a problem, John's on the ball every single time. It's a great
And as
team.
we scale up, we plan on having more people, more Johns, in the world that can, do that. And basically, you know, you're going. We're trying to basically scale to where every time we have a new batch of contractors come on board, a certain number, we're still trying to work out the math, because it comes and goes on what one person can handle. But, our next goal is to get another person to John's level of knowledge and hands-on experience with the software to be able to answer that call 24/7. We already have, so we are right now, we have, John is always on call. And we also have a
Hmm.
developer that's always on call. That way, if anything happens after hours or weekend, like you said, we can, if it's a bug, then hopefully we can get it fixed and rolled right back out, or if it's something that's even just a user error on your part or confusion on your part, then we can do a quick training with you and get you back on track, and that's what makes all the difference in the world. With most softwares out there, you can't do that. Try calling up some of these big guys on a Saturday morning when you're on a large loss, and you'll be lucky if you get an answering machine.
Yeah,
So
and
you'll
you don't get that person that actually has some compassion for you and understands and don't just talk to you like you're an idiot. It really is nice. Same. I keep bringing up Clean Cleans, but they're the same. Y'all's business model is same. The same. I think it's great. It works great for us. So you are doing a great job.
I
I don't
appreciate
know
it.
where I don't know where the industry would be if it didn't have things like that, because the old way of doing it, whether it was an Excel spreadsheet or the people that everyone used to just default to for TNM is so complicated, and it was such never. We started out as a square foot based company. That's how we built our little world here, and that comes with not a lot of documentation and not a lot of a lot of the stuff that goes into a T&M project. And the old way of doing it was very complicated, not fun. We've been waiting on money for forever, because because the system was bad. It was because us putting it in, it was just confusing, and it's complicated. You don't do this, you don't do that right. It's tethered to certain computers, and it's just, for some companies it's probably amazing, but for me it just doesn't work out for me.
It
And
don't,
this
and the square foot thing was
so
a great concept. Company I was with, and you guys shared a client that wanted us to kind of move more into that direction, and he quickly found out that don't fly with today's adjusters and consultants during Ian.
Mm.
You know, it's so
Well,
uh,
because when you have square foot rate, you don't need adjusters or consultants. It's
yeah.
like going to the restaurant. You paid up front, so it won't. It should take off, but it won't. T&M is going to be the way of the future, and
Yeah.
I am glad to see that several companies out there or adapting to it and utilizing it, and there's training out there for it, because that means the industry is accepting it. With instead of just
I
saying,
think
"Oh, you got to do
residential will get
Xactimate."
there eventually. I think people are fed up with, the old way of doing things. If you call anybody out to do anything at your home or your place of business, whether it's a painter or sheetrocker or anything else, if it's not related to a loss, they're doing it in time and material. And we are the only industry that has these weird set prices to do certain things. And what drives me crazy is when people try to apply Xactimate to commercial structures. Well, Xactimate was built for walking into Mrs. Smith's house, not having to carry DHUs up 20 flights of stairs, to get to a place because the elevator power's out. It doesn't encompass and include those labor and those unknowns that are in every commercial structure. The building envelope is built different. No, I'm still recording. It might be your signal. You've been popping in and out. Can you still hear me, Chris? Are you there? All right. Well, I've lost Chris, even though I can still
Right.
see him. There you are. You back?
Yeah, I don't know if it's mine or yours, but it
Yeah,
does cut out
your
sometimes.
picture. Yeah, your picture is fading in and out too. So, well, I know you're busy. You got to go to a job. You're heading up to a job site. Don't want to say where and give any of that kind of stuff away, but I really want to thank you and any of you guys who have not yet looked at his class. Please sign up for his December classes. I'm telling you that I've been to a lot of trainings like Chris has, probably not near as many, but I will say going and doing his class and being there present for the last one he did, there's nothing else like in the industry. Your guys, if you need a project manager or someone that is a high performer to get ready to be a project manager for your large loss and commercial team, they need to go sit in that class, and you'll have a lot less problems. It's worth every bit.
Appreciate that.
All right. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate your time.
All right, sir.
All right.
This episode is brought to you by Helix Co., the most advanced time and material ecosystem for ROMs, time and material billing, job sharing, with digital records and much more. Check us out at www.helixco.io.